So I guess, ask everything you can. I'm going to be pretty candid with this stuff, right? Like normally we would wait until the 316 live stream and then drop a bunch of cool things, which would ideally fix all the problems. But I don't really want to wait that long. And so kind of marketing be damned at this stage. I'm just going to tell you changes that we're making in 316. We'll do a live stream announcing them fully later. Obviously they'll be, iterated on by then. But yeah, expect a bunch of early info and hopefully a lot of transparency.
Okay. Right, well, so start off then. Is the intention going forward to keep nerfing the game as suggested?
Yes, which is why I'm here on the podcast today, to try to sort things out.
I can understand
tweak
that.
To fortify. Just to clarify, because there's a history of by tweak to fortify, you mean that it's still going to be in the game next league, that sort of stuff.
Fortify will still be in the game, and the intention of the tweak, my understanding, is to make sure it fulfills its purpose as being for melee characters rather than for everyone. But the history of Fortify, if you're interested, is that in a game like Diablo 3, for example, they've got flat damage reduction for melee characters. The Barb just takes 30% less damage than the other classes, and that's where their balance is. Whereas we wanted to make it mechanical. Anyway, that's completely off topic. This shouldn't be about the Fortify note.
I need to know. Okay.
Rise, shut up. Just to backtrack a bit, sorry, Rise. You said that the community misunderstood the marketing. Why do you think there was such an obvious? Because I think it's a bit more than misunderstood. I would say it was more the marketing itself was very misleading.
That would have been extra resists, right? And so we've been playing with this as a concept, the idea of basically having a mode to Path of Exile where itemization is entirely different than what people know at the moment. It's basically the ultimate challenge where getting through Act 1 is challenging. Getting any further through the storyline is very difficult. Getting to maps is difficult for most players, right? Making any progress in maps is hard due to significant item scarcity. And by this I mean, you find a rare and you say, yes, a rare, what is it? What can I do with this? This has trade value, right? It's a quiver. People are going to want a rare quiver. I don't need it, but someone else is going to. And it's exciting, right? The currency is so limited in this potential mode that the ability to add mods to items is an incredible thing. The thing that me and the other founders have been pushing for is a really politically bad thing to announce, right? Like, if my vision is terrible, then saying this is my vision, what the game should be. Look, you've got barely any items and it's really hard. I haven't got the map successfully. That's probably not something that's politically great to announce on a live stream. So we're just throwing it out there that a thing that will probably be in 316 is an alternate mode that you don't have to play. That's really a whole lot of fun. Try it out, and you won't get very far because it's brutal and there are no items. And
I'm going to beat the whole game in that mode.
Everything, like the level of destruction to the item system is significant in that mode. They change a lot, right? Like we're benchmarking players, and they're mostly playing at the same speed as they were before. We bought some room from power creep, but sorry, you were saying?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were finishing the statement there. But I would agree with you to some extent there, but disagree on the specifics of it. Like there are still builds that are blowing up a screen of monsters. You're right. There's builds that are blowing up a screen. There's builds that are blowing up things off screen. But that is the tip of the iceberg, and the vast amount of builds underneath said tip of the iceberg got hit, and some of them got hit much, much harder to the point where they are essentially unplayable in any sort of competitive setting. If you want to.
We just have to make sure that you can still get better items than that, so that there is something to look forward to.
Right, but that's not the thing. That's not the way that players play the game. People don't find items that they then equip and are an upgrade. They buy those items. Harvest enabled players to actually get the items that they wanted by themselves. They actually gave them a way to craft them. Because right now in the core game, players just don't play enough to ever farm up a reasonable amount of currency to make those items by themselves. And that's, I think, where the core of the issue lies.
We absolutely still want to work on the itemization of the main game, right? Like our goal here, and the side question here is the decluttering, right? There's too many items that drop in regular Path of Exile, and it's too many clicks and all that kind of stuff. In the same depth records they did in the past, but it also means you don't need to like delve down to 6,000 or something like that to actually get good rewards. In addition, we're going to make it so that if you get to tier 16 maps and then you don't delve, the catch-up mechanic puts you at a relatively deep depth, so you don't need to just play through hundreds and hundreds of really early tiers. We're considering adding the Uber domain of timeless conflict. We haven't worked out what that means, but basically taking Legion and saying what is the Uber version of that. Uber blighted maps, for example, basically going through old leagues that are working well and saying this is content, but the top characters can clear it. What if they couldn't? And then make a version of that that's incredibly difficult and incredibly rewarding. We may add Ultimatum back to the core game and then potentially allow for more than 10 waves where it just ramps up and up and up in a crazy way. We agree. If the league doesn't have compelling uniques, then it's just a question of how much currency does it give me, and how much currency. Like, we can't win that question. If it doesn't give enough currency, we lose all our players and hence lose millions of dollars. And if it gives too much currency, we set ourselves up for later, where Ultimatum's handing out multiple chaos per area on average.
Okay, it again boils down to accessibility. I have to ask this because I don't care how good Hateforge is. I don't have it. I'm not gonna have it. If I play a lot, even, it's probably not gonna happen. Do you plan on making these things something that people, for instance, play is very strong for a league and then later on gets nerfed?
Now that there is too much grind before they're at farming stage, basically, in the Atlas. And so we have some changes for 3.16 that we're looking at. Again, these are preliminary. Okay.
I said that when I showed up.
Oh dear. I probably should have checked with more people before just reading this stuff out of our internal tools, but we'll pay the consequences. Okay, so our current plan is the following. We reduce the Atlas to 4 regions rather than 8, and this means you have to acquire far less watchstones, and the progress to farming Cyrus will be far, far shorter. We're reducing the Atlas to have 100 maps rather than 160, so that means your Atlas completion will only require 100 maps, each one's worth 1%, and we're going to shuffle those, so every time we shuffle the locations of the maps, we also cycle some maps in and out, like we do with Zana mod rotations.
That's cool.
All the bonuses from all of these will be increased to compensate. For example, you get +1 awakening level per 2 watchstones instead of from 4, and the map completion bonuses will be changed from on the ground, and you're not really going to want to click 10 times to get those. And so our hypothesis here is to have it that at certain bands, the average sizes of the Wisdom Scroll and other small currency stacks get larger, and the relative occurrence of them gets less common. So you might find that you're finding Wisdom Scrolls 1/10 of the current amount, but you're finding them in stacks that average 10, maybe 6 to 14 or something like that. And so, therefore, it's worth a click to pick up 14 Wisdom Scrolls in one go. And the same may mean that when augments drop, you're finding 5, you're not finding 1. You're just not getting a small smattering of augments all over the screen, you're getting them less frequently. It could mean, for example, that in a breach, instead of getting several splinters, you just don't, gut the item system to the extent that I was talking about for hard mode. It will certainly mean that you don't have this incredible sea of items that are completely worthless. The amount of white items dropping is somewhat unbelievable right now. And to some extent, that stuff is not making it any easier to pick things up. As a side note, by the way, one thing we're discussing is having an option to not render filtered items. The intention is that if items are filtered by your filter, so you don't want to see them, then why are we rendering them and their shadows and all of that kind of stuff? If you've got a couple of 100 items on the ground that you don't care about and you've chosen not to care about with your filter, maybe they essentially shouldn't exist for your client from a performance point of view. So that's something we're also experimenting with. The consequences of deterministic crafting. We both learned lessons about player expectations. The league design of the actual garden stuff itself was quite instructive to us. So we're going to be doing these, there's going to be, 40 more Path of Exile leagues across PoE 1 and PoE 2, and if there's a PoE 3 and so on. So it's important for us to learn for the long term and to talk to players and find out what they liked and didn't like about each one.
This might not be a question you have an answer to directly, as it's a little bit more on the specific side, but the current state of Harvest, do you think that that's an acceptable place for it to be, with augments still technically being in the game, but being as honestly obscenely rare as they are?
Harvest buff, but it's really not changing a whole lot apart from a bit of accessibility. There was another change, by the way, with veiled mods. The team are basically really looking to make some changes to that system. The notes that I have here are that for most of the veiled mods, they'll unlock immediately on being unveiled once, so you don't need to grind up a progress bar for them. Some of the more advanced ones may still require that progress bar grind for the most powerful, but for the vast majority, you just immediately unlock potentially all tiers they're discussing upon one single unlock of it.
Every time. Is there something you've thought about in terms of looking into that?
Just aura cap for mobs, dude. Facts.
We don't think that rare monster mods are in a good situation at all. One of the changes that we recently moved out of 3.16 into currently 3.17 is to completely replace all rare monster mods in the game with stuff that are easier to understand visually at a glance.
Holy shit!
Kind of, simpler and more impactful. Some monsters don't have like 5 properties that all stack in the same way. Maybe a monster does 1 or 2 things, which could stack in extreme situations.
3.17!
But there's less kind of just general spam of monster stuff going on. This is an early idea that we have, but we're not at all happy with some of the things to do with a smile in about 10 seconds.
Love the work. Keep it up.
There he is. I got the smile. Okay, perfect.
Well, I can reduce everybody's smile and talk about cluster jewels. Why? The Path of Exile skill tree is the most prized jewel of this game. Anytime there's a balance issue that affects everything, you guys add shit to the skill tree and it always works. Without exception, it's always been great. Cluster jewels, a fantastic addition that's gated behind Delirium that just doesn't seem accessible. You guys keep nerfing these cluster jewels and they're still so popular. They are
because Trade League raised QT.
Pretty much built into making skill trees in PoE now. Why are they still gated behind?
Can I just say, you're asking for how my PoE is like a child who is currently drowning in a blow-up kiddie pedaling pool, asking if they can go swim in the ocean. Okay, dude, get this. Hard mode PoE. Oh wait, I think what do you guys reckon? I think I'd do a subathon for hard mode PoE until I've killed all bosses. Every boss in hard mode. This stream doesn't end until I've killed every boss in hard mode PoE. Yeah, all bosses. But I can't do it in 3.16. So, yeah, I can't do it in 3.16. Because, guess what? 3.16 is the next patch. And my son's going to be born around the same time that comes out. So I can't do it then. But 3.17 sounds like it's going to be the Poggies patch anyway. So 3.17... Infinite Subathon, hard mode, all bosses.